back, everybody, to another episode of Gas is on the Right. No, he's got a chance to win the race.
I think that might have been like one of the cleanest hits I've ever seen in a NASCAR fight.
Side Rick. Yeah, the back. Oh! Oh! Into the wall hard goes Ryan Blaney.
And he finally came to a stop. And it was just dead silent.
I said this last week, and I'm going to keep reiterating it. Live with the decisions you make. Drive by the decisions you make. Don't change up your style, but also just don't be dumb. All right, everybody. Welcome back to Gas is on the Right podcast with Daniel, Emily, and Alan. We are here post Pocono, the tricky triangle. But before we get into that, if you will, please make sure to check us out on all of our social medias. On TikTok and Instagram at Gas is on the Right podcast, on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Gas_Right, and on YouTube and streaming platforms across the globe, Gas is on the Right podcast. So, let's get rolling into Pocono, the tricky triangle. What, 6 weeks, 5 weeks left after this week in the regular season?
Yes, I think so.
Got 5.
Yep, so we are winding down. So, well, Emily, you want to kick us off?
Sorry. Well, I think it's safe to say that if your city needs rain, you just call NASCAR to come along.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, man, that's, 7 for 7 for NBC? Or how long have they had it? 6
I
weeks
think
now?
so. 6 weeks, 6 for 6.
At least
For
it didn't
NBC.
delay the race this week, but
I will say
there was
that,
rain.
yes.
Well, the
At
truck
least it
race
didn't.
had rain, but
Oh, we're talking about the big show at least.
Well, it's literally the one storm cell that was across Pennsylvania this morning came across Pocono.
I know.
Yeah, I came across the track at it rained from I think 10 to 12 this morning out there. So they had I'm sure if you were in the stands or anywhere around during the pre-race stuff, it was probably very annoying hearing those jet dryers and the air tundras just running around the track. But man, yeah, can't catch a break. If you need rain, you
Just
go.
call NASCAR.
You call NASCAR,
They'll come help
and
you
you'll
out.
be good to go.
Can they come
So.
to Georgia again?
Yeah, I know. We need it. Still.
Oh, I need no rain this week.
No rain whatsoever. Well,
I think it is supposed to rain Wednesday, though. Not to put a damper on the beginning of your week, Daniel.
well, that would be the mid of his week, so potato.
I just need it. I need it to be dry, at least tomorrow.
Well,
I think you should be good though.
fingers crossed for dry weather on a Monday. But
Yeah.
well, let's get into Pocono in and of itself. So, first off, a pretty interesting breakdown of the stages this time around. Really short first stage, not even a fuel run for the first stage with a 30-lap run, followed by 2 65-lap runs. So, about a fuel run and a half, with it being, I think, 40 to 42 laps was the fuel window.
45 allegedly, but and Joey Logano's fuel tank could probably go about 55 laps.
Yeah, that's the truth. So left a lot of strategy up in the air leading into the race where the drivers could really pick and choose what they wanted to do and how. And the team, well, more or less the team's not the driver.
So, speaking of interesting pit strategies, to go along with the first stage, you also have Gragson, who wrecked halfway through it. So that caused a whole new pit strategy for the back of the field as well.
Yeah, I think the back of the field, and at this point you got to do something different. I know a lot of those guys, some of the guys that fell to the back, make adjustments, air pressure adjustments. Think about Logano, who was able to work his way back up front after the strategy, with making some adjustments after bottoming out in the tunnel turn.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big move, but then it also put the front of the field on check because they then needed to flip the stage itself by pitting with 2 to go. So I think everybody that wasn't in position to get stage points pitted. So
Yeah, well, even some in Blaney and Gibbs were in the top 10 and they pitted as well.
it was interesting how that played out because since Gregson's spin happened like smack dab in the middle, there was still a significant amount of green flag racing that went on that spread the leaders out from the people that were in the back of the pack to where once it was spread out, when they pit, they didn't lose as much track position that they would have lost as if they would have pitted under yellow at the end of the stage.
Right.
So they were able to flip the leaders who stayed out. And, I mean, people had to obviously they needed to do something different because Larry McReynolds is famously quoted, if you follow the leader, you're going to follow the leader. So
Yeah.
they had to do something different. And I mean, because that put it to where they pitted, everyone was going to have to stop during stage 2 at some point and during stage 3 because of how the fuel runs were laid out.
Yeah.
But it put it to where they were going to have to stop earlier in stage 2 versus the other people that stopped later. But their hopes were is that when they got that flip of the field position or track position, they were able to stay in front of those cars that were faster, or at least stay in front enough to where as it played out, they just had track position for the rest of the race.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for them, it did not work out that way. The fast cars found a way to the front.
Yeah. Yeah. The cream of the crop really did rise to the top at this point. Even after these strategies and playing out, but Pocono is kind of known for one of those tracks that if you're good at it, you're going to be good at it. And if you're not,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to luck into it at Pocono. So it's called the tricky
Yeah.
triangle for a reason.
Yeah, and Pocono is always a strategy race. Like you got to have the speed to win the race because of how long those straightaways are. If you're not putting out horsepower, you're not gonna. I mean, you saw that the big teams like Gibbs, Penske, and Hendrick were the cars that were at the front, and RFK were the cars that were at the front most of the day because of the raw speed that they have.
Right.
Um, so you got to have that, and then you got to have good strategy. Like some of those, I mean, if strategy would have played out a little bit differently, those 11 to 20th place cars, had they have gotten that track position, maybe could have stayed out in front, depending on how that strategy fell and won the race. But it was going to be won by one of those Penske, Roush, um, Gibbs, or Hendrick. It was going to be won by one of those organizations because no one else had that raw speed that they had.
Yeah. Yeah. As long as everybody made enough fuel, they were going to be all right. So, which I mean, that speaks to the stage 1 winner. Which do you have the stage results for that?
I do. So stage 1 winner was Truex, followed by Hamlin, Reddick, Byron, and Elliott. And then 6 through 10 is Bowman, Logano, Keselowski, Bell, and Jones. Wow, that's actually. I didn't realize Eric Jones finished that high in stage 1.
Well, he stayed out when all the
Mm-hmm.
other back half of the field pitted and was able to maintain that track position because
Mm-hmm.
of the people that flipped the stage. He stayed out to get the extra point to move him from probably 30th to 29th in points.
Yeah.
From 30th to 29th.
one spot at a time, right?
That's all it
Yeah.
takes.
So,
And his defense, he missed a couple races.
valid, but that legacy speed's still just not there. That team's not where they need to be.
Mm-mm.
So, but that's a whole another topic for a whole nother day.
Well, then you also have stage 2 that mirrored stage 1, but this time with Chastain being wrecked halfway through. And then again, the same thing as the pitch strategy change for the back half of the field as well.
Yeah, it kind of fell perfectly for some of these guys to be able to run it out and get up there and try to make a charge. It's very, like you said, very mirror image of stage 1, except just Chastain this time going out by himself and slapping the wall, breaking the car, ending his day. But that was really about it until
Yeah, for stage 2.
Yeah, so
Stage 2, I have those too.
let's see those results.
Yeah. Which
So you
Chastain's Chastain's wreck, that really the way the strategies are playing out, that kind of split everybody's that was already split. So we were having about like 4 or 5 different strategies going on at that point, to where it was going to make for a pretty interesting last stage. But we'll get to there. All right, stage 2 results, Emily.
Stage 2. So you have Hamlin, Elliott, Keselowski, Byron, Jones again, which again, he's in 5th. I just did not realize he finished that high in both stages. Larson, Bowman, Bell, Logano, and Reddick. So honestly, about the same. I mean, you have Larson in top 10 of stage 2 that you didn't have in stage 1.
Yeah. That was really kind of the gist of it on that end.
All right, so stage 3 begins, and so does the calamity in turn 1. I don't believe Gilliland lost his brakes in turn 1, but he did lose his brakes on lap 115, and that put everybody within a couple laps of their fuel window. A lot of people took 2 tires, so they're going to need a couple of cautions to fall to be able to make it to the end, which kind of nullified all the pit strategies that we had and put everybody on the one strategy of, you took the 2 strategies, I guess, the 2 tire stop or the 4 tire stop. The 4 tire guys were pretty good. The 2 tire guys
Yeah.
were going to be questionable on whether they had enough fuel or not. But it was only some of them, because there was that 5 or 6 different strategies leading up into that. And
Yeah.
they got the cautions they needed.
Oh, for sure.
But
Of
before we
course.
All of
get
them.
into that, a wrench in the plan of a couple of these guys, Suarez, Elliott, Larson, and Gibbs, all got speeding penalties in section 7 of pit road, which put them to the back of the pack. Which, I mean, Elliott looked like he might have the only car that could compete with the Gibbs cars, besides, obviously Blaney was able to hold off and win. But
Yeah.
it looked like he might have, his charging speed on some of those restarts was incredible.
Well,
So
when it came to Elliot, actually, a fun fact, you have it's been 92 races since he's had a pit road penalty.
Yeah,
Which, I mean, that's pretty good.
that's 3 years, just about.
yeah, I mean, you look at him versus Kyle Busch, has one every other. Well, he had one like 4 or 5 weeks in a row to start the season off.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I
So
mean, very disciplined off pit road, and an uncommon mistake for him.
yeah, which that was the
But
one questionable area on pit road too, because if you
because it's
looked
the
at how the
smallest
zones broke
section.
up, it was the smallest section of all the zones, and it's not measuring speed, but it's only measuring speed at each line, because it measures off of time, and then time goes into speed.
Yeah,
So
Mhm.
you do
time
however
over
many
distance.
seconds it takes you to cover this distance at this speed. If you're going faster than that time, that's when you know that you're speeding. So, and they all got them right there in section 7. It's just a little shorter section right there, and it was what caused everybody to get that penalty. So, unfortunate for those guys, because that kind of ruined their ideas and what they had going, but also may have favored them if this race would have stayed green, because when they came back down, you're still under
They're able to
penalty on
top
pit
off.
road. Go ahead and top off, and all of them took 2 tires.
Mhm.
So they all went ahead and got the left sides changed too. So they were on 4 fresh Goodyears, all 4 of them, from the back of the pack, with a fuller tank of fuel, so they didn't have to worry as much of saving. So, but this race didn't run green. So,
Then you have what has become a weekly occurrence at this point.
Mhm.
Kyle Busch somehow wrecks out. Whether he wrecks himself, gets wrecked by somebody else, gets caught up, it doesn't matter. There's always a Busch wreck. So,
It's almost like they're building that car on top of like an Indian burial ground or something.
yeah.
I mean, that car is cursed.
it seems about like it at this point.
Yeah, no, it's right up there. Um, I don't know what they're doing or how they're doing or what they need to do to fix it, but they don't have it figured out, that's for sure.
So, do you have the video?
I do have the video, so we can break this down together as a team. So here we go. You see it's a restart. You see Bush shoots down to the bottom lane, shoots down to make that block on LaJoy.
Mhm.
LaJoy comes back up, and he is hooked. And then right across the front of the field.
Hmm.
Daniel, your thoughts?
Let's go ahead and
I
see that again.
am a big Corey LaJoy guy. I will be surprised if he's driving the number 7 car next week.
Hmm.
All right.
And I know they say
Interesting.
because, and I think the most incriminating part is the radio chatter after this of,
Yes.
that he got what he deserves. You blocked me twice, you get hooked, So the radio chatter is extremely incriminating for him. So I believe that
You think
he's
it was intentional?
probably, you don't,
I'm just saying.
you don't think
There's
he meant for what happened to happen, but he definitely meant to spin Bush. I don't think he intended for him to shoot back up the track and end a bunch of other people's days. I mean,
Mhm.
really, everybody that got wrecked out should have been like Ricky Stenhouse and Kyle Busch at the All-Star race and been waiting outside his holler
Yeah.
because they're just innocent bystanders in that. But I mean, that looked pretty intentional
I
to
mean,
come hard right up the track into his left quarter panel.
Yeah.
let's watch this one more time because you see LaJoy come back up and it looks like he did turn.
Well, the broadcast was talking heavily about the yellow line, but if he's on Bush's quarter panel or right there, or I mean, at the end of the day, LaJoy needs to live there. It's that's a dangerous area to be doing something like that, or just I mean, if you watch the in car, which we don't have the in car here, but I mean, he gets all of his quarter panel, and he does not have to come that far back up the track because if you look, he washes to the top lane.
Right.
LaJoy does into turn one.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I mean, they could have made the corner and he could have just used them up in the corner,
yeah,
and they both keep going straight and live to fight another day, which I mean, LaJoy did, but however, Bush did not,
yeah, and
or none of the other people.
Bush did not have any comments after this race either.
Uh,
And I mean, looking at it, what else do you want to say? Do you want to start more stuff to get yourself wrecked out again, or start a scuffle when you're running? I mean, 5 of the last 7 weeks, he's finished 27th or worse
Yeah.
with 3 35th place finishes.
You run with the squirrels, you get bit in the nuts.
So there's that
There
A
goes
team has a
Alan's pick.
lot of work to do. Yeah, there goes my pick. And I mean, Austin Dillon sounded very optimistic at the street race last week that there's a lot of good things going on. What they are, I don't see them, but
I mean, it's probably might take time for it to come to fruition. I don't think we'll see it maybe till the end of this season, but I mean, I'm a
it's
big RCR fan, so I hope
yeah,
that they're able to
They
pull it
figure
together.
out whatever they have
yeah.
going on over there.
So
So on the next restart, Nemechek someone again.
yeah, it's the new Chastain.
John Hunter
This time
Rekacek.
Zane Smith causing yet another caution.
Hmm. So yeah, Nemechek just squeezing where I mean he shouldn't, but I don't know.
It's Nemechek.
He probably turned his comments off again.
What do you mean?
Mm-hmm.
When the Eric Jones wreck happened, he said I hate it for him, and he turned his comments off on the post because it was
Yeah,
getting
because they were
blasted
like,
on social media.
yeah, they were like,
Like,
this is blatantly your fault.
yeah. So
So you have that, and then I don't think a caution came out for this, but Gibbs's motor just decided to go kerplunk with 28 laps left.
yep, good old chocolate milk on the
Mhm.
road, and it ended up did
Yeah,
go.
that was pretty.
Oh yeah, they did call a caution because they had to clean that.
Yeah,
Because
and
there was a
Yeah,
good bit that came out too.
it blew going into turn one on the next restart.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
Was
he
this
was
3
not able to make
restarts
it
in
in
a
a row.
row with caution?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yep. So,
at least
uh,
this wasn't overtimes this time.
Yes.
Dude, those overtimes
Yeah.
killed me
For
a few
sure, at
weeks
least it
ago.
was not overtimes, but you had that, so that restarted them, I think, with 24 to go. And Blaney gets out to the lead and is able to fend off the reigning race winner of Denny Hamlin,
Mm-hmm.
as well as the charging Alex Bowman, and take the win for Blaney's second win of the season. So no new winner this week.
Oh, so speaking of Bowman real quick, what I found interesting, and I don't know where he said this, it was in some press conference, but he was basically like, for the people saying that I shouldn't be at Hendrick, y'all just need to shut up now because I think I proved myself after last week. Now, he said a little more choice words than that, but that was the gist of it.
Yeah, which, I mean, at the end of the day, who else would they put in that ride?
I mean, I couldn't think of anybody else. And I've never said that Bowman's bad per se, but I think he struggles with people comparing him to his teammates, and that's just, I mean,
He
you
is
can,
the worst of the four.
yes,
If you look at it numbers wise.
But he's
yes,
still pretty good if you consider that the last 2 seasons he's had a back injury, and then the season before, remember he was out with a concussion, and Noah Gragson had his ride for a couple races when he had a concussion.
Yeah, I
right.
But
think the
he
He's
last
really
3 or 4
good,
even
races.
but I think people spend so much time comparing him to his teammates that he is, like Alan said, the worst of the four. So they're like, "Oh, he's terrible. He's not up to their caliber." And I'm like, "No, he's good, just not
yeah, I
as
mean,
good."
worst of the four sounds bad, but when you consider it's William Byron, Chase Elliott, and Kyle Larson, two of which are Cup Series champions, it's almost like when it was Johnson, Gordon, Earnhardt, and Casey Kane. It's not that Casey Kane wasn't as good as the other guys. It's just that, or it's not that Casey Kane wasn't good, just compared to the other guys, he wasn't that great.
Right. I mean, you compare anybody to Kyle Larson, and you're kind of like,
Yeah, I mean, we'll put it this way:
Yeah.
Bowman has a 13.3 average finish on the season thus far. So
Well, I mean, he's no slouch, 10th in points,
yeah.
you don't get there by running average.
right.
hmm So I mean, 12 top 10s, 6 top 5s with the one win at Chicago last week. Um,
Hmm.
he's there for a reason. And again, with another top 5 this week with his third place finish here at Pocono. So, but Blaney with the win. So now we look into the shaken up playoff standings as these 5 races left. 5 races left, and it's starting to get a little tight.
All right, so Daniel, do you want to take that? You're always better at listing those than me.
Yes. All right. So the point standings, we got Elliott in first place, +1, Larson in second, -1. Tyler Reddick and Denny Hamlin, respectively, stayed in their spots at third and fourth. William Byron moved up to fifth place, jumping Martin Truex, who's now in sixth. Ryan Blaney is seventh. Christopher Bell is eighth. Brad Keselowski and Alex Bowman jumped up to ninth and 10th over Ty Gibbs, who fell back to 11th. Chris Buescher jumped over Ross Chastain, taking the 12th spot, leaving Chastain in 13th. And then Joey Logano stays 14th, Wallace in 15th, Briscoe 16th. Daniel Suarez jumps Kyle Busch to 17th, leaving Busch in 18th, and Austin Cindric in 19th.
And how does that make the bubble look?
So now the cutoff is in 13th place, Martin Truex Jr. plus 137. I think it's okay to mark him safe now.
Yeah, I would say that he is definitely safe.
Unless we got like two new winners and he had two crap weeks in those two. So it's, but we've seen him be second in points and miss the playoffs. Well, he missed the playoffs, but Kurt Busch had to retire, so he made it. But whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Whatever.
Ty Gibbs is 14th in points,
Mhm.
plus 67. Christopher Buescher is in 15th, plus 43. Ross Chastain is in 16th plus 27. Behind the cutoff is Bubba Wallace in 17th minus 27. Chase Briscoe in 18th minus 75. Kyle Busch in 19th minus 102. And Todd Gilliland in 20th minus 127.
So I would say that Bush or beyond is in a must-win territory. 100%. I would say even Briscoe is probably not safe considering he has not had that many finishes per se.
But what about Bubba? What do you think?
Bubba, if Chastain keeps continuing on this trend, he's got a chance because Chastain, 4 weeks ago was plus 72, and
He's plus 27.
Daniel said that he was probably safe.
Keyword probably.
You were quite confident in that.
Maybe.
So, but here we are now with 5 weeks left, and he is a bad race from being on the opposite side of that bubble. Because there's one thing, Bubba's been running pretty consistently and running well consistently. He finished 10th today, and he's got some tracks that probably favor him more than others coming up and where he's ran well. Richmond earlier in the year, minus his wreck in the overtime, he would have probably had a top 10 finish there. Indianapolis, I think, plays into his wheelhouse a little bit. Michigan's coming up. Daytona, he's a great super speedway racer, and he's pretty average at Darlington. So a lot of tracks where he's really good. And not to put anything against Ross there as well, but I think that's going to be the most interesting combo to watch is them two every week playing out through these final couple weeks because I don't think we're going to see a new winner at Indy. I think the only places we'll probably see it is if we get Barry at Richmond. I would say
Busher at
Daytona.
Michigan.
Busher at Michigan. Daytona could be a fluke.
Yeah,
And
I think
then-
you could possibly see Busher at Indy as well. Just he's in one of those premier rides that, like we said, Indy is one of these high speed places to where the big people show up.
Yeah, it's gonna be a race where the big dogs play.
Yeah, which I mean also could fall into Truex and Gibbs. Truex is one of the few people who has experience on the Indy Oval in this race.
Yeah, that is true. So, and I mean Larson has the most track time there recently.
Yeah, but
So
I mean a Gibbs or a Truex win is not as detrimental to the cutoff line as per se a Busch, Gilliland, or anywhere behind there, any kind of fluke win.
yeah,
Right.
when you're ready.
We do have a silly season update though. So we have Gragson going to front row.
Yep. So yeah, the Gregson was one of them. He announced with front row this past week. I think the Tuesday. You also have that makes 3 of the 4 Stewart Haas drivers have confirmed their rides for 2025. So you got Barry going to Wood Brothers. You have Briscoe going to Joe Gibbs Racing. And also, you now have a crew chief signed from Stewart Haas with Rodney Childers signing to be the crew chief for the number 7 in 2025
Oh.
and beyond. So he will be Corey LaJoie's crew chief. He didn't go with Barry like it was suspected.
Yeah, they must have thrown a paycheck at him for
Yeah.
him to leave. Because I
For him
mean,
to leave
if you
Barry.
think about it, the 21 is formed of Penske. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the way Penske cars are running right now, you don't want to go there. Are you sure?
Yeah.
But so they had to have said, say your number. And he was like,
Yeah.
this. And they're like, done.
Yeah. I feel like there may be some longevity there as well, considering like he could easily move into like a competition director role moving
Yeah, a
forward.
Chad Knaus role.
Yeah. And I could see that happening after 2 or 3 years, moving to that type of role at Spire. But yeah, so some movement going on. That does still leave a lot of question marks still open. So currently, you still have the 16 and 31 at Colleague, the 3rd charter for Front Row, the charter for Haas Factory Team, the 2 remaining floater charters for SHR that haven't been confirmed, but it's most likely going to be 2311 and Trackhouse. So those seats as well. So that makes what is that? 7 seats still available? 6 seats? I think it's
That's
6.
so many.
That's might be the
So
biggest silly season ever.
I was gonna
yeah,
say, like, I can't
there's
think of another season that has had this much movement.
there's been like big name signings in the past, but there hasn't been a ton of seats open. And the thing is there's like
Mhm.
no true locks on those. Like if 2311 gets the charter, I would presume they're going to sign Corey Heim. But is
But
that
there's been
guaranteed?
murmurs of Riley Herbst's parents buying it or something and saying, "We'll buy it. You put him in."
So yeah, he comes from a
But that
lot of
might
money.
be
I
changed.
didn't realize
Yeah,
that.
that might have changed now that um that Briscoe ended up going to Gibbs instead of that front row spot, and presumably Cole Custer's probably gonna get that
Stuart
one
Haas, right?
charter that SHR is keeping.
Or yeah, the
So there's
Haas
the front,
factory team. Right.
yeah, there's the front row spot, which I mean, Cole Custer could move to that, and they could just move Riley Herbst directly up SHR into the 41, kind of up in the air. But Gregson and Herbst are buddies, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Herbst move into the FRM. But I mean, Corey Heim would be getting robbed if he
Yeah,
doesn't get the 2311 spot, to be honest.
I agree. I think he's proved
Much better
himself with what
talent
he's
than Riley
ran.
Herbst.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but from there, I think I could see Sam Mayer getting a colleague ride next year.
Yeah. Yeah, over
So
Hemrick. Yeah, for sure.
I could see Mayer getting a ride. I don't think Allmendinger doesn't have the funding, so I could see somebody. I don't know who else would fill that seat, but unless they do an
I
open
think
car again.
I don't think they'll do an open car. I think they'll farm out a cup charter to Trackhouse. So it'll either be SVG or Zane Smith, one of those two driver, whoever colleague or Trackhouse doesn't
Keep in house.
keep in house, they'll farm out that charter through colleague, I'm sure,
And I
and
would
be like,
say that's probably gonna be
here's a
Zane.
yeah, they'll be like, all right, look, here you go, colleague. Here's a funded driver to where you don't have to go find one,
Yeah.
which
Mm-hmm.
could possibly make colleague keep that second charter open and Sam Mayer be kind of SOL, you know.
Yeah, I mean they could run the open charter again because as it stands, it's not in a bad spot comparatively. So, I mean, if you look at it, the open charter is sitting 32nd in points,
Probably
but
ahead
it
of where
is,
Hemrick is.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to verify. Well, Henrik's sitting 28th.
Yeah.
So, but there's like a 18-point difference between them. So, but from there, we do have one other silly season update, and that's going to be the
Haley Deegan.
Haley Deegan. Yes, Haley Deegan's out of a ride,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems like it was not necessarily her doing, but on mutual terms. So, sounds like they said that.
Saw some things that they quit paying her or something.
Really?
Really?
I don't know if that was true, but I saw something that said that they might have quit paying her.
Wow.
I mean,
So,
but if she was running the way she was running in that car, I wouldn't have paid her either. But I mean, you look, Josh Berry got in that car and ran about where she would have ran at Pocono.
yeah, I don't think it's the equipment, or I don't think it's the driver. So,
Who did she part ways with?
I
I
mean,
forgot who she was.
AM Racing in the
Okay.
Xfinity
AM
Series.
Racing. That's who. Remember we interviewed Chris Bass. He worked there before he worked
Yes.
at
Yep.
RCR.
So,
I just couldn't remember who she was with just because I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
She's always
I-
wrecked, so I just didn't really pay attention.
Yeah, it doesn't help that she doesn't get raced. I don't want to say race. Well, she doesn't get raced fairly. Let's be honest. But
yeah,
it's not as bad as when she was in the truck series. But I think everybody kind of had high expectations for her when she got in the '07 last year, the year before, and
It
her
was
first
last
start and went and
fall.
ran like, yeah, and ran 13th. And they were like, oh, she's
Yeah,
not as
Phoenix.
bad as she looks in the truck series. And it's like, well, yeah, I think we all kind of knew that.
Yeah,
That's nothing but a squirrel's nest in the truck series. Um, but I just don't think that team was ready to take that on yet. Because I mean, if you look at Joey Logano's he's different than having Josh. No knocking against Josh Berry, but he's a much better proven race car driver
yeah.
than
He's
Josh
he's got
Berry.
the
You know.
he's got the time in and the I guess
Hmm.
wisdom you could say in racecraft built to jump in a car and go. So, but yeah, so some changes coming, some changes still to come.
A lot of
But
silly seasons still
yeah,
left.
we got silly season in this booth as well as Lee Diffie will take over the play-by-play starting at Richmond in August, post Olympic break. So Rick Allen will be out after Indy this week.
You know what else? Booth silly season I've seen. Marty Smith is going to be joining the Amazon Prime TNT booth
As the
with ES.
play-by-play, I think, right?
Yeah,
That's
with
going to be
his
good.
buddy Dale Jr. Yeah, him and Dale Jr. That's going to be the most redneck broadcast I've ever
Yes, and
heard.
I think Jamie McMurray is the third guy they're going for right now.
Right.
That would be a huge W for them.
So, and then I hear that, um, what's his name? Alexander. Mm,
Adam Alexander.
Adam Alexander is in talks with both Amazon, TNT, and the CW to take over Amazon and TNT for the Cup Series side, but the CW for all Xfinity races
Oh,
to
okay.
be the
Hmm.
play-by-play, which I think would be phenomenal because he already has done it for so long. He knows the storylines, he knows the drivers, and he can be that guy. And he also knows how to build a booth when it's the drivers in the booth with him.
Yeah, I think
So,
that would be wise for the CW to just put Adam Alexander in that role and continue
right.
just to place drivers randomly for a much cheaper rate than a standard guy. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, just fill them in
I
the
love
holes.
when the drivers are in the booth. That makes the race a lot more
Oh,
entertaining, getting
the
their
broadcast is so
perspective.
good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So, but well, from
That's
there,
the best Fox broadcast of the year is the Xfinity broadcasts.
yeah. Yeah, they do such a great job. So, but yeah, excited to see how that falls. So, silly season is in full swing on and off the track.
On
So,
and off the track.
but from there, I guess we will get into Indy and Indianapolis preview. So, we have not been there in the Cup Series for 4 years. It's been longer than
Too
that.
long.
Yeah, it's been too long. So it's time to take the oval again. And for starters, we're gonna go into our picks. So Emily, you with the win this week with Hamlet, you are up first.
So close to a win-win.
So to update our points, by the way, so Daniel is leading with 11 points in our picks pool, followed by Emily with 9, and myself rounding out the back end with 6. So Emily, your
Hey,
driver,
you laugh, but Allen's not out of it. If he won every single race the rest of the way through, he'd win.
Oh, no, no, no. I was
we're there.
laughing at the fact that I'm somehow in second place, but I have the worst average finish. And I'm telling you, it's because I have been messed with these
You've been
last
getting
few
hurt.
weeks.
So you
I
went,
either do, here's the thing, my drivers either do really freaking good or they're just bottom of the barrel and they
yeah.
just get wrecked.
You won New Hampshire. You finished 33rd at Nashville, last at Chicago, and then came in second this week at Pocono.
Yeah,
So for an 18th place even average finish across the season thus far. Um, but yeah, it's you.
I was about to
We'll
say.
go through your picks real quick. So she has remaining Cindric, Dillon, Barry, LaJoy, Briscoe, Burton, McDowell, Gilliland, Priest, Nemechek, Jones, Stenthouse, Haley, and Hosevar. So who are you feeling this week?
I am trying to choose between Briscoe or LaJoy, but I don't necessarily think LaJoy would be the best, especially if he's not racing next week.
Yeah, LaJoy has a comeuppance on the way, so I don't know if it
That
would be
is
my
true
pick.
too. And with how bad Kyle Busch is doing this season, he may give him comeuppance just because he can.
Yeah,
Busch may be like, look, not
so
gonna make it into playoffs, so I'm just
we're
gonna go
we're all
ahead and
running in the
wreck
back
us.
anyway, so might as well just take us all out.
If I were you, I'd look at your veterans, people who have raced there, which
I know
is
I was
Austin Dillon, Michael McDowell, actually John Hunter
you really
Nemechek,
think Dylan? I'm not picking Nemechek.
and Eric
Nemechek's
Jones,
everybody, and then wrecks himself in the process.
Yeah, Eric Jones did just come
and
off a good week too.
Ricky Stenhouse.
All right, look. Let's see.
Or Austin Cindric drives for Penske. They got a lot of speed.
Eric Jones
That's your
actually does
best.
have a decent average finish.
Yeah, but that's taken into account. I think the road.
Well,
course.
but it's these are intermediate tracks because they
Oh,
have
just
no
in general?
data. Yeah, they don't have any data on Indianapolis. So all the data that I have for average finishes.
Yeah, I'm kind of on
Is
the
useless.
Daniel train. I would say Cindric or Jones or Briscoe.
Or someone who's had another option is Josh Berry, but he just can't put a finish together. He can
I'd save
start
him
out
for
really
Richmond
good, but he can't
anyways.
put. Yeah.
We got Richmond 2 coming up here in
I
a
don't
week,
really feel like I could use Jones anywhere else, too.
other than Darlington.
Arlington.
I think that's going to be the fight between me and Daniel when it gets down to it, on who
Hmm.
wins, who finishes better at Daytona against Jones at Darlington. Out of the three of us now, so you're
I was
thinking
gonna
about
say you shouldn't have told me
that.
that.
But who you
Um,
got?
hmm,
Any day now.
I usually have days to make this decision, not hours. McDowell.
Hmm?
That was a question. I think McDowell.
McDowell?
Because I don't know where else I'd use him.
Well,
I'm trying to look.
Michael.
Daytona.
Yeah, Daytona.
Not McDowell. Daytona is such a wild card, though,
Yeah, she can put just about anybody in there.
because it's
Yeah.
Daytona.
So, and
Yeah,
she's still got good super speedway picks, better than McDowell at least.
I'm
That
putting
is
Justin
true, but
Haley at Daytona.
So, well,
here's the
that's
thing.
got.
I can't throw crap at a wall and make it stick. Like, you can't.
Oh,
All right, Alan.
hold on. Oh, I just took my knee out on the desk.
Okay. Are you okay?
Yeah,
All
it
right.
just hurts.
We'll restart in a second.
All right, Daniel, call me.
All right, Alan. It's time for your pick. Let's review your
Oh.
available options as well. You
All
have
right.
Austin Cindric, Austin
Mhm.
Dillon, Noah Gragson, Ryan Blaney, Chase Briscoe, Harrison Burton, Todd Gilliland, Ryan Preece, Eric Jones, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Zane Smith, Carson Hocevar, and Daniel Suarez.
I am going to. I'm gonna throw it at the wall and make it stick. We're gonna go Austin Dillon.
Okay.
We're gonna go back to back RCR guys and see what happens.
We're back-to-back 30th place finishes.
There goes Alan's
So,
average.
Daniel.
So, Daniel, your eligible picks are Dylan, LaJoy, Larson, Gragson, Priest, Nemechek, Jones, Stenhouse, Haley, Smith, Hocevar, and Suarez. I can't do it like Daniel does. Suarez.
Suarez. You got to roll the R. Suarez.
I can't
Mi
do
amigo.
I
that.
can't roll my R's.
I'm tongue-tied.
Daniel Suarez. Well, it doesn't matter
Suarez.
because I'm gonna pick Mr. Half a Double himself, Kyle Larson.
He's got the most track time. So
Yeah, most recent track time,
that as well.
and he knows
Mhm.
how to go fast.
Always. About every week. As he was up front this week too, just couldn't make it back to the field after his pit road penalty. So but
Hey,
well,
one thing, all I want to note is while I may have an 18 average finish, I do have the most race wins out of the three of us.
that is true. You have
Yeah.
2.
Don't hold your breath.
So, well, guys, to wrap it up, just remember again on the screen, and if you're listening, to follow us on all of our social medias at TikTok and Instagram at Gas is on the Right Podcast, at X, formerly known as Twitter, at Gas_Right, and on YouTube and podcast streaming platforms around the globe, Gas is on the Right Podcast.
Around the globe.
Without further ado, we wish y'all a great week, and we will talk to you next week post Indianapolis.